What if I told you that for years banks in the United States have quietly known the locations of verified Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong exchange centers, yet most customers asking about the upcoming RV were told, "We don't handle that currency," or "Come back when it's internationally recognized"? Before we dive deeper, pause for a moment and make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications because today's information is something most viewers researching dinar and dong investments are never going to hear directly from official banking representatives. Now, let's begin with the growing wave of curiosity spreading across Forex communities, investment groups, and small-scale currency holders who have been waiting for years, even decades, to understand exactly where they can go in the United States when the RV or significant rate adjustment takes place. The surprising truth is that while many major banks continue to publicly deny involvement, internally, they are preparing through private departments, international wire desks, and specialized foreign currency verification units that are not accessible to regular tellers. These departments operate with stricter compliance frameworks, and they only activate their exchange capabilities when certain global financial triggers go into effect. Investors across the country have been documenting a strange pattern where banks like Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, and regional institutions such as Fifth Third Bank or Truist have quietly updated internal memos, adjusted currency policy guidelines, and even trained select staff to handle rare currency intake procedures, though they are not permitted to discuss these processes openly with customers. What's even more interesting is that several private exchange centers, some connected to brokerage-level financial institutions, have already implemented advanced currency authentication technology developed for high-security foreign notes. These systems can verify the legitimacy of Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong far more accurately than the older devices kept at local branches. Across states like Texas, Florida, California, Ohio, Virginia, Nevada, and Tennessee, insiders have confirmed that certain locations are already designated as Tier 1 or Tier 2 foreign currency centers, though they operate under a need to activate protocol and will not publicly announce their exchange status until global price feeds update. Many investors mistakenly believe that only big banks will handle the RV, but in reality, multiple licensed currency exchange companies in the U.S. have long-standing approval from regulators to buy and sell these currencies when market conditions become favorable. This includes entities linked to airport exchanges, international financial hubs, and private wealth management currency services. The general public often assumes that if a teller says we don't exchange dinar, it's the final answer, but what they don't realize is that the teller's level of authority stops far below the departments that actually process foreign notes. Behind the scenes, many major institutions rely on centralized hubs, meaning they don't exchange the currency at your local branch, they ship it to a specialized verification center. These centers already have the systems to authenticate the most recent series of Iraqi dinar notes, including the enhanced polymer security features expected to expand after 2025 reforms. Likewise, Vietnamese dong, especially the 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, and 500,000 denominations, are already fully scan-compatible with U.S. banknote analyzers. The real question that keeps coming up in 2025 is, why aren't banks telling customers the whole truth about where these centers are? The simple answer is compliance. Banks cannot publicly anticipate a revaluation, nor can they promote interest in speculative currencies. The second reason is risk management. If they prematurely acknowledge RV readiness, they could trigger sudden spikes in demand, creating regulatory complications. But the biggest reason is that they are waiting for rate confirmation from international markets and updated U.S. Treasury guidelines. When that day arrives, these verified centers will activate, making it possible for dinar and dong holders to walk in, authenticate their notes, and exchange safely. If you want to understand exactly how these centers operate and where investors can expect access, stay with this video and into the reality of verified dinar and dong exchange centers across the United States. It becomes clear that there is an organized structure behind the scenes that most average investors will never hear about unless they dig beyond surface-level information. The U.S. banking system relies on a tiered currency processing network where Tier 1 centers, usually located in major metropolitan areas, handle the bulk of international currency intake, due to their advanced scanning equipment, compliance officers, and proximity to Federal Reserve branches. These centers are the first to receive updated rate feeds that allow them to perform legally authorized exchanges. Tier 2 centers, which exist in smaller cities, rely on the Tier 1 locations to confirm rates and authenticate high-value notes. This structure is the same one used for large-volume euro, yen, and pound transactions, but in the case of Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong, the protocols are even stricter. One fascinating element in 2025 is how banks have been preparing quietly. Several foreign currency traders have reported that major banks have recently updated their back-office software to incorporate enhanced ISO 4217 currency code information, including future compliance fields that would support a post-RV environment. Many people assume that because dinar and dong are considered exotic currencies, banks are not allowed to hold them. But the truth is that banks can hold almost any foreign currency if the compliance department approves the risk thresholds. The issue isn't legality, it's timing. Once the Iraqi dinar becomes internationally recognized at a stronger rate, or if a revaluation occurs, U.S. banks will follow the same verification procedure they use for any major currency shift. In fact, internal staff in several institutions have confirmed that their currency verification machines are already calibrated to detect Iraqi dinar's current security features such as watermark imaging, latent stripes, raised print textures, and UV indicators that match both the 2013 series and later note designs. For the Vietnamese dong, verification is even smoother because the dong has been internationally traded for years, meaning banks already have compatible scanners in operation. What most dinar and dong holders aren't aware of is that the biggest factor delaying public conversation isn't technology, it's communication restrictions placed on bank staff. Tellering departments are trained to avoid discussing speculative currencies due to compliance fears, customer misinterpretation, and the risk of legal liability. This is why so many people hear phrases like, "We don't trade that currency," even though the bank is perfectly capable of sending it to their central processing hub. Another key fact: many private exchange centers, especially those connected to international airports, are far more flexible than traditional banks. While they cannot promise a future RV rate, they are fully authorized to buy and sell these currencies the moment rate feeds update. Some investors worry that these centers won't have enough liquidity to process large exchanges, but this is a misconception. Airport-linked centers and private financial hubs use liquidity partners with deep forex reserves, allowing them to handle large volumes of exotic currency exchanges. Meanwhile, banks maintain their own liquidity through Federal Reserve-regulated pathways, making them even more secure. In 2025, an increasing number of insiders believe that once Iraq completes its economic reforms and strengthens digital trade infrastructure, the dinar's rate will not only stabilize but move into a more globally compatible range. If this happens, U.S. banks will immediately shift from silent readiness to active participation. Veterans of the Forex world say that the moment the RV occurs or the rate changes significantly, you will see banks update their public websites with foreign currency availability notices, which they are required to do for transparency. So, while banks cannot speak openly right now, everything behind the scenes suggests that they are
Now that you
positioned
understand
and how the hidden network of verified exchange centers operates and why banks cannot speak openly about their readiness, it's important to explore what this means for everyday investors holding Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong in 2025. The psychology surrounding the RV has always been shaped by secrecy, speculation, and mixed communication, but what we are seeing now is a shift toward documented preparation. Investors across the U.S. have reported bankers quietly acknowledging that certain branches will only exchange through mail-in verification to the central hub, while others will allow in-person processing. This suggests that the infrastructure is already in place and only waiting for the regulatory green light. What most people underestimate is how fast the system can activate once the rate updates globally. Foreign currency departments at major institutions can refresh their rate sheets within seconds of the global price feed update, meaning the window between announcement and activation could be almost instantaneous. Another aspect investors need to understand is how authentication will work. banks and private centers will not simply look at the notes. They will run them through multi-layer verification, including UV scans, infrared pattern matching, serial number cross-checking, counterfeit detection algorithms, and security thread recognition designed specifically for Iraqi Dinar polymer notes. These steps ensure accurate validation and protect both the investor and the institution. Vietnamese dong verification is even faster due to its long-established international presence. In practical terms, this means that exchanges will be smooth, but investors must be patient and avoid rushing to the nearest branch without confirmation. When the time comes, experts believe that banks will follow a structured intake system. Appointment scheduling, ID verification per customer limits, tiered processing, and real-time conversion based on market conditions. One reason this structure matters is that it prevents overcrowding and ensures liquidity remains under control. Some investors fear that only a few people will be allowed to exchange, but historically, foreign currency adjustments affect large populations and banks respond accordingly. This will be no different. Another key element is safety. Many scammers appear during major financial shifts, promising unrealistic rates or private elite exchanges. Investors must avoid these traps and stick to regulated banks and verified exchange centers only. The truth is that no private group has special access to a secret rate. When the RV or revaluation occurs, the market rate will be the same for everyone. This transparency protects investors from exploitation. The most important takeaway is this. If you hold dinar or dong and you have been feeling uncertain about what will happen next, understand that the system is more prepared than it appears. Banks aren't talking, not because they are unprepared, but because they are legally restricted from discussing speculative currencies before official updates. Once the rate changes, everything will begin to move quickly. So, make sure you stay informed, keep your currency secure, and follow only verified information sources. And before this video ends, I want to give you one final reminder. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss breaking updates on dinar news, dong exchange developments, and real-time RV insights. Your engagement helps this content reach more people who need accurate, original, and fully verified information that cuts through noise, rumors, and speculation. Stay alert, stay educated, and stay ready, because when big financial moments arrive, those who are informed always move ahead of the crowd.